Where do you draft Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson in 2020? I get a lot of feedback on this, a lot of negative comments.
Smitty, how the heck are you taking a QB in round 2?
But in this video, I'm going to tell you where exactly I draft Mahomes and Lamar in 2020. And I get that question daily.
Smitty, how do you know when to grab Mahomes and Lamar?
What players would you take ahead of Mahomes and Lamar? Let's break all that down and more. Intro. Top 5 running back. You're watching the Fantasy Football Show. Smitty! Take a lap. Okay, to illustrate my point, I'm going to walk you through an actual mock draft and talk about each player in the second round as they come up and what makes me go Mahomes or Lamar. Where's that line in the sand and what players fall on each side of that line? It really is that simple. There's a line. A certain number of players are on one side, and the players that I don't feel are worth grabbing over Mahomes and Lamar are on the other side. So let's grab the 4 spot and give ourselves a chance to really have a good shot at Mahomes or Lamar in the second round. And why not mock while we're here? Barkley, McCaffrey, Elliott. Okay, easy call. We're going to go with Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Devontae Adams, Michael Thomas, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Derrick Henry, Miles Sanders, way too high. Kenyon Drake, Joe Mixon, I'm staying away from in 2020 at that value. Tyreek Hill, Nick Chubb, DeAndre Hopkins, steal. Josh Jacobs, one of the steals so far. Julio, Kelsey, Patty Mahomes, Eckler, and then we're on the clock and Lamar's there. Let's pause this draft and break it down. So what players are on one side of that line and what players are on the other? Now, the only round 2 or 3 QBs are Lamar and Mahomes, so I'm only contemplating going QB early with those 2 guys. What players are left on the side of that line where I'm taking those players over the quarterback? At running back, none. There's not one running back left on this list, at least. Let me scroll down a little bit. Yeah, not one that I'd rather have over Lamar and Mahomes. Eckler, I would. Eckler just went. Josh Jacobs, yes, I would take Josh Jacobs over Mahomes and Lamar 10 times out of 10 because I still like drafting a QB late. Because I adamantly defend the early QB approach, people automatically assume that's the only approach I like. I am an equal opportunity quarterback drafter and strategizer. In fact, I love drafting the next Mahomes or Lamar. And Mahomes was number 1 on my 2018 bold prediction. So obviously, I feel like I found the guy. I actually wrote the article, the bold prediction, making him my number 1 2018 prediction back at the tail end of the 2017 season. You wouldn't get Lamar or Mahomes if you don't go QB shopping late. So I like the approach, but I'm not going to force going running back or wide receiver or tight end if the best player available on the board is Mahomes or Lamar. I pretty much always draft best player available at every single draft selection I have. When all things are pretty much equal, I may let position of need influence me a little bit. Or like in the case where I'm drafting at number 11 or number 12. If you look down at the end here, the running backs left almost every single time at pick 1.10 all the way to 2.3. I love them. Pairing a Henry with a Jacobs, a Drake with an Eckler. I love all of those combos. Eckler over both Mahomes and Lamar. Kelsey, debatable, but probably not. I probably would rather have Mahomes or Lamar over Kelsey or Kittle. And if I can get Mahomes at the tail end of the second round and draft Kelsey and Kittle with my Barkley or with my McCaffrey, I'm a pretty happy guy. And I love that starting team. And I've drafted that way in a grip of leagues already this year. Real leagues, not mock drafts. Real leagues where I've got Barkley, Mahomes, and Kelsey. McCaffrey, Mahomes, and Kittle. Barkley, Lamar, and Kittle. Dynasty redraft, I've done that a lot. I've deployed that strategy, and I like my teams in those leagues probably more than any of the other teams I've drafted in 2020. Hill, Hopkins, and Julio, and maybe Godwin, maybe Evans, maybe Galladay, and that's it. That's my line in the sand. Aside from Joe Mixon, maybe Miles Sanders, I would take all of these players over Mahomes and Lamar. Right at 2.8 to 2.10, my line is usually drawn right there. And while most people will go, wow, you're taking a QB early, you can get such a better player, I disagree. In fact, let me word it this way. Not only do I think it's a good deal to get Mahomes or Lamar once that drop-off happens, once Eckler's gone, Jacobs is gone, maybe Evans and Galladay, maybe one of Kelsey or Kittle, once all of those guys are gone, the line's been crossed pretty much every draft. You'll find me drafting Mahomes or Lamar in almost every league where my pick falls on this side of that line. When I get a draft pick around like 1.9, 1.10, 1.11, when my second rounder is very quick into that turn, you don't find me drafting Mahomes or Lamar. That's when I deploy my late QB approach. That's when I'm grabbing Brady in round 9 or 10 and winning a league because of it. That's when I'm grabbing Murray if he should fall to 6.02, or Watson to the 6th or 7th round, which happens a lot more than I'm comfortable with, even though I love it. So no, I don't always draft Mahomes or Lamar, but I'm showing my hand here because if I have a pick on this side of that line, which is always right about 2.9, 2.10, and Mahomes or Lamar fall to me at 2.11, 2.12, I'm taking them every single time. But then I get,
Smitty, you know you don't draft a QB early, don't you? Have you ever won using that approach?
yeah, a lot. That's why I find this conversation so funny every single year. Because instead of me gambling on a Gurley or a Connor or a Fournette, I'm taking arguably the best player in the league. And then I'll grab my player, my comparable running back, later on. And then we'll compare my Mahomes and the player I took later to your Gurley and your quarterback. It really is odd that people don't break it down that way, comparing the 2 for 2, the apples to apples. You can't tell me drafting Mahomes or Lamar at pick 2.11 is a mistake when your only argument is that quarterbacks are deep. What you're really telling me when you say that is that you don't believe, like I do, that Mahomes can drop 45, 50 TDs in 2020. And that's where we part ways on this topic. It doesn't even do any good to argue early QB, late QB. It doesn't matter. You're telling me you don't believe that Mahomes is head and shoulders above the other quarterbacks, or that Mahomes and Lamar aren't head and shoulders above the other quarterbacks. They are, in my view. If they're not in yours, that's your argument right there. So if in this situation, I'm going to resume the draft. So I'm on the clock. I'm taking Lamar, taking Chris Godwin, Todd Gurley, Aaron Jones, George Kittle, Kenny Golladay, Chris Carson. I'm on the clock. Mike Evans is there. If I'd gone Godwin, I wouldn't have got Lamar. So I'm pretty happy with this approach. I'm going to draft Mike Evans, and let me pause it real quick and just address that draft, and I'll go backward and tell you what I would have done. We're going to let people think that we're overvaluing Lamar at 2.9 because the God's honest truth is he's worth way more than a 2.9, but we don't pay that, do we? Because we don't have to. I would have been fine with Alvin Kamara, Chris Godwin, and Kenny Golladay, but this right here is absolute fire. In fact, let's keep the draft going, and we can see what this early QB mistake is going to do for our lineup. Okay, so we're back on the clock. Amari Cooper's there, Cooper Kupp, AJ Brown I love, Chark I love. We probably won't get AJ Brown back, so we got to consider grabbing him. Mark Andrews is a thought there. David Montgomery. Let me pause the draft so I don't time out. I like David Montgomery, Mostert, Hunt, all about the same. I'm thinking I might get one of those guys back here, and I don't want to lose AJ Brown. Not to mention, I'm not afraid to go wide receiver here. Most people would tell you that's crazy. You got to draft for position of need. I draft best player available at every turn, and I'll fill a void later through trade, free agency. I'm not afraid to have a very weak link in my lineup because I do sleeper building. I draft a bunch of league-winning running backs like Tony Pollard, Madison, Lat Murray, J.K. Dobbins. I'll fill my team up with guys like that can step up and fill my running back 2 or 3 spot later. I will not force running back and draft somebody I don't think is as good as A.J. Brown or Chark, who I think are easily deserving of picks here. DK Metcalf as well. But you got to look at the pre-rank list, and if DK was down a little bit, then I would wait. But DK went right before this pick. Montgomery would be good. I'm going with AJ Brown. AJ Brown, Andrews, David Montgomery, Amari Cooper, Kareem Hunt. I would love Kareem Hunt. Cooper Kupp, Sutton. We're on the clock. We have DJ Chark there. We've got Mostert. God, imagine Mike Evans, AJ Brown, DJ Chark. Okay, I'm going to stop it here and let you imagine what I do with this spot. I probably in one draft would go Chark and go crazy wide receiver happy because I don't care. But Mostert would also be a very smart pick. And if I had 2 exact teams, 2 different drafts, 2 different parallel universes at the same time, right in front of my face, I'd probably go Mostert in one and go crazy bold Chark in the other. Let's take this all the way back to the Lamar Jackson pick, and let me pick Godwin there because he was on that line. Okay, so we're back on the clock. I reverted the exact same draft all the way back to the Eckler pick, and I'm going to resume the draft. And I'm going to take Godwin here and we'll see what the team looks like. If I take Godwin here, we know we're going to lose Lamar. Look, next pick was Lamar. Kittle, Aaron Jones, Todd Gurley, Kenny Golladay, Mike Evans. I like A.J. Brown down the way, Metcalf, but I'm not taking a wide receiver here. I'm not taking Andrews. I'm not loving the running backs. I made a mistake. At this point in the draft, if I did not go Lamar, I would not be happy. I'm pausing the draft. I'm not going quarterback. The only round 2 and 3 quarterbacks are Lamar and Mahomes. I never do this, but let's take Fournette and see what kind of team we would have. Fournette, welcome to the first ever team I've drafted you on in like 2-3 years. So I went Chris Carson, Connor, Thielen, Melvin Gordon. Now, if you like Melvin Gordon, I like Melvin Gordon more than Fournette, but I'm trying to appease my audience who probably sees Fournette as the better pick. And I just plugged him in there to see what the team would look like. But imagine whatever player you like in that spot. I'm on the clock now. Quarterbacks available, Wilson, Prescott, Murray. I think we could wait, one more turn to look at that. I don't know that I'll go quarterback there. Ridley, Metcalf, Chark, Ingram, Singletary. We already got 2 running backs. Not that, again, let me pause this draft before we time out again. Not that I draft based on need, but the values are pretty close between the running backs and wide receivers here. So I will look at position of need, and maybe it pushes me over the fence. But A.J. Brown just went. I didn't even see that right before this pick. I would have taken him here, but I'm going to go with Metcalf here. And resume the draft, and let's just go one more turn around and see what our team's going to look like. It's not a horrible team. Okay, we're on the clock. Chark went. That hurt. Mostert went. Ingram went. That hurt. I like Hunt here. Yeah, I'm probably going Kareem Hunt if I'm in this spot. Okay, let's pause this draft and kind of look at it. So the team in this situation is not bad. I don't hate the team. And again, I didn't really make a mistake drafting Godwin because he was right at that line. One of the last players I'd draft before Lamar and Mahomes. But the flow kind of screwed me up, and I'm not super happy with Fournette. I personally like Lamar, Kamara, and Mike Evans more than I like Kamara, Fournette, and Godwin. But that's me. You might feel differently about that. And that's okay because, again, we drafted very smartly in terms of where we were going to draft Mahomes and Lamar. And this Godwin move was a smart move at the time. But I guess my main point in this video is to tell you that it's a bunch of crap when someone says you draft a quarterback in the second round, you're not going to have as good a team as other people. You're going to be at a disadvantage. Did I look like I was at a disadvantage with Lamar on my roster with Mike Evans as my 3rd drafted player, Lamar as my 2nd, Kamara as my 1st, and I had AJ Brown in either Chark or Mostert. I wasn't missing a beat. Tell me what team you like better. I won't feel bad at all if you like this Fournette team more. I drafted it, but I think the Lamar team's a little more exciting. But picture Tom Brady on this team, and this is a pretty darn good roster. Picture Melvin Gordon instead of Fournette, or Carson if you like Carson more than Fournette. Picture the guys you like. Use the approach, not necessarily the exact player rank that I have here. Use the theory. We're all going to value guys a little differently, and I'm not going to be right on everything. So if you believe in a guy like Carson, put him in there. I like that team. I initially felt like it could have been a mistake. The flow of draft was off, but I like both teams. Tell me what you think. Subscribe below and get on over to sleeperu.com and get all of your bold predictions, your rankings, and all the great content that will help you dominate your league. Stuff like this, but in written format and rankings format, and the famous bold predictions. Who's on my bold predictions list for 2020? That's what's going to help you win your league. Later, top 5 running back. You're watching the Fantasy Football Show.
Smitty,